In this video, we will see the other components of the cell. And in fact, I believe all of these slides are pretty straightforward. In them, you need to know the name of the organelle and what does it do. So I'm going to save you me reading the slides. However, I will stop at 2 or 3 slides. I want to make sure that they are clear. In some of the cells, we have something called cellular extensions, and these are extensions basically of the plasma membrane. The first one we are going to study is something called microvilli. These are projections. Again, they are coming out of the plasma membrane, and their main goal is to increase the surface area of the cell. Usually we see these extensions in areas where we need higher contact with the materials, like in the small intestine. There we know the function of the small intestine is to absorb nutrient. So if the cells were like flat, then there is only this area of contact between the food and the cell, and therefore only limited amount of food can be absorbed. But with these microvilli, we will have much larger surface area. So the food can be absorbed in more areas comparing to this cell. So that's what does it mean to increase the surface area of the cell. So these are the microvilli or microvilli. The second type of the cellular extension is the cilia. And the cilia are longer extension from the cell surface. As you can see, all of these are cilia. Now here, their function is not to increase the surface contact. Rather, their function is to create a movement. Usually, these cells, we can find them in areas where there is fluid covered, or we need to move the substances, like for example in the reproductive duct, where the sperms need to be pushed, or the egg need to be pushed down, or in the lungs and in the respiratory tract, where there is a need to constantly moving the fluid to remove any debris, any dust that come with the air. So usually these cells are covered with the mucus, a fluid, and this fluid would contain these debris. So these cilia would move and create a wave-like movement in this fluid, as you can see here. So they can bend and they can stand, and this will create a wave-like movement in the fluid, and this will push the fluid forward. Think, for example, if you have a running nose. Why do you have a running nose? Because there is something irritating the respiratory tract, and the cilia are functioning at higher speed to try to get rid of these irritant materials, or these materials that causing the irritation. So that's why we will see a lot of mucus coming out. So for example, this fluid covering these cilia is mucus. So this is the function of the mucus. A third type of cellular extension is called the flagella. And the flagella, we can see it in the sperms. So this is a sperm, this is the head of the sperm, this is the midpiece, and then we will have the flagella or the flagellum. The function of the flagellum is to create a movement, or to help the sperm to move forward, to swim, so it can reach the egg cell. So this is another cellular extension with a different function than the other two. For the nucleus, this is also an organelle, and it's important organelle in our body, in the cells. It's important because the genetic information in form of DNA is stored. And most of the cells in our body, they have nucleus. The only exception is the red blood cells. Red blood cells lack nucleus. They don't have nucleus. Why? In order to provide more space and therefore to carry more oxygen. So that's why the red blood cells, they don't have nucleus, to carry more oxygen. At the same time, there are some cells that they are multinucleated, like skeletal muscles. Skeletal muscle cells are multinucleated, and we will understand why they are multinucleated when we talk about them in chapter 9. Now, it's very important, although this is an easy concept, I will just go over it. The nucleus is a membranous organelle, and it has pores, nuclear pores. So there are some materials allowed into the nucleus, some materials allowed out of the nucleus, but this is very selective process. Not everything can go inside the nucleus, not everything can go outside the nucleus. Now, the main thing that the nucleus has is the DNA. And the DNA in the nucleus is usually in form of chromatin. Now we understand from chapter 2 that the DNA is two-strand double helix. These are wrapped around each other to form the double helix. After that, they will be wrapped around histones. So we will call them the nucleosome. The nucleosome is the histone. These are proteins and the DNA. So the proteins and the DNA are called the nucleosome. And then these nucleosomes will be compacted together to form the line, the chromatin. Sometimes the chromatin can be condensed even to a chromosome. So the chromatin and the chromosome are the same thing. The only difference is how much they are compressed with each other. And of course, all of them are within the nucleus. So I will stop here for this video. When we come back, we'll talk about the DNA replication and the cell cycle.